Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, going to be taking a look at the NBA slate on DraftKings for Friday, November the 18th. Now we do have a big Friday night slate, 11 games tonight, guys. As always for these big slates, I do try and go a little bit quicker, so we are going to go through each one of these games, give kind of my brief, quick thoughts on each game on the slate and what stands out to me taking a first look on Thursday night. Before we do get started with the breakdown though, as always, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos, please hit that like button down below. I always appreciate the likes, and hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. Also, if you're new to the channel and you haven't checked out PrizePicks yet, PrizePicks is the sponsor of this video. You can sign up for PrizePicks and use promo code NOAH. When you do sign up with my promo code, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. PrizePicks, if you've never heard of them, they're a player prop based DFS site. Very simple and easy to use. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection, over or under. So you can take a look at their board, see all the projections they have available. At the time of making this video on Thursday night, there's no NBA props up yet for Friday. But obviously, once we get closer to the start of the games on Friday, they'll have their full board posted. You can see all the props that PrizePicks has available. I will be making a PrizePicks video for today, talking through some props I like for this slate. So if you want to check out that video, see some props that I'm playing and tail me, you can do so. But as always, if you guys, if you're not signed up on PrizePicks yet, get signed up over there. Use promo code NOAH, and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's go ahead and talk through Friday night's big 11-game slate. Going to go quickly, guys. Just kind of give my thoughts on each game. So start off with the first game of the night, the Heat and the Wizards. This is one that I think we could be interested in. On the Washington side, I really don't see a ton I'm liking on the Wizards today. The Wizards are pretty much fully healthy right now. Their big three is healthy. Kuzma, Porzingis, Beal are all playing. Plus, it's kind of a tougher matchup against the Heat. So, nobody really looks that great on the Wizards to me. At least, for me, just playing one lineup, I don't think any of these guys are going to make my pool for my one lineup. If you're playing 150 lineups, then sure, you could get a little bit of Porzingis or a little bit of Beal, but the Wizards might just kind of be a full fade for today. Now, on the Miami side, it could definitely be a different story, because for Miami, we do need to keep an eye on the status of Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo was questionable last game, and he did not play. Tyler Hero has already been ruled out, so no Tyler Hero, potentially no Bam Adebayo either. Now, last slate, I played Jimmy Butler in my main lineup, and literally I don't even know what I got from Jimmy Butler. It was just the worst game I've ever seen. 21 DraftKings points. He took 8 shots. No Hero, no Bam, and Butler only took 8 shots last game. I just couldn't believe it. I checked the box score. I was watching the game, and I was, kind of looking at my phone, just checking the box score, and just seeing Jimmy Butler do absolutely nothing was beyond tilting. Because I was expecting him to have a massive role, really big usage rate, and he just didn't do much last game. Now, I think it's very likely that Jimmy Butler bounces back here, puts up a much better game. Obviously, if Bam Adebayo were to sit, we could expect a pretty big role for Jimmy Butler, obviously with Tyler Hero out as well. So I'd be fine going back to Jimmy Butler today if Bam Adebayo sits. If Bam Adebayo plays, then I think Butler's just he's an okay option, but I'm not going out of my way to play him. Bam Adebayo, if he plays, I think at 8,200 feels priced about right. Not super interested in Bam today. And then Kyle Lowry, you have at 6,600. Lowry was also pretty disappointing last game without Hero and without Bam. He only put up 27 DK points in 36 minutes, but obviously, we can expect a much more productive game from Lowry here. We know the minutes are going to be there. He should be one of the top 2 guys running the offense. Him and Jimmy Butler should be the 2 guys running the show, if Bam winds up sitting. So I'm definitely interested in Lowry and Butler today if Bam gets ruled out. Max Strus and Caleb Martin both had pretty good games last game. They did actually pretty well. 30 DK points from Max Strus in 35 minutes. Caleb Martin, I know, had a big rebounding game. 9 rebounds, 33 DK points. He played 38 minutes. He's also questionable for today, so this is going to be something to monitor. But, if Bam does sit, I don't mind going to Strus or Martin. I think Martin I'd prefer because he's way cheaper. And then, some more value we could look to. So last game, they actually started Nikola Jovic at center. Not related to Nikola Jokic. They started Nikola Jovic at center. He played 24 minutes. He wasn't super productive, had about 20 DraftKings points. I don't know if they would start him at center again or if they would go to Dwayne Dedmon. Dwayne Dedmon did play last game, but he came off the bench and only played 15, 16 minutes. So keep an eye on that. Whoever does start at center between Dedmon or Jovic, if Bam were to get ruled out, I think those guys would be in play for value, whoever does start. But that's really it for this game. I think that kind of does everything. Obviously, it's kind of a tough situation to break down right now until we get news on Bam. Luckily, this is one of the first games, or this is the first game of the night, so we'll have news on this before lock. But let's move on to the next game, Charlotte and Cleveland. So looking at this one, this is another game where we have some injuries. No LaMelo Ball. He's already been ruled out for today. Gordon Hayward is doubtful. Dennis Smith Jr. is doubtful. And I believe Jared Allen is questionable. He's questionable. So Starting off on the Charlotte side, without LaMelo and without probably Hayward and Dennis Smith Jr., we can expect a pretty big role for Terry Rozier, pretty big role for Kelly Oubre. Some of these other guys are going to have to play a lot as well, like PJ Washington and Jalen McDaniels. Rozier and Oubre at their price tags, I don't think they're like priority plays today, but they are definitely viable because they're going to have really big usage rates. And I would definitely expect Terry Rozier to have a really big usage rate here. Now, Rozier has been pretty disappointing this season. He's really only had one good game, and it was their second game of the season against the Pelicans. Every other game, he's basically been like under 43 DK points. He hasn't really been justifying his price tag, but obviously without LaMelo now, we can expect Rozier to be more productive. It is a pretty tough matchup against Cleveland, but I think Rozier is playable today. I think the same could be said for Oubre. Oubre's been playing really well lately. The price tag at $6,800 does feel right for him. Like, it's not like he's way too cheap or anything, but I'm still fine going to Oubre here. I think he is in play. And then the value from Charlotte, Mason Plumlee, I don't know if his role really changes without LaMelo. If anything, it might not even benefit him at all. So not super interested in Mason Plumlee. He's also kind of expensive. But I do want to talk about PJ Washington and Jalen McDaniels. I think PJ Washington at $5,700 could definitely pick up some more usage here. I think his minutes are going to be very secure. 35, 36 minutes. Tougher matchup again, but $5,700 is not that expensive for PJ Washington. And then I'm assuming Jalen McDaniels starts for the Hornets. They're probably going to start Rozier, Oubre, McDaniels, Washington, and then Plumlee. That's my guess on the starting lineup. So if Jalen McDaniels does wind up starting, he's only $4,700. He's been relatively productive on a point per minute basis this year. So I think as a value play, he does make some sense today, assuming he does start. Would he be like a slam dunk free square? I don't think so, but he would definitely be viable on this slate. And that's really it. Like, there's nothing else on Charlotte I'm going to. And then on the Cleveland side, obviously really good matchup here. Charlotte, they've been better defensively this year. They haven't been playing as fast, but I still think it's a good spot in general for some of these Cleveland guys. Now, Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland both feel priced about right. I think the bigs are where I'd want to go to from Cleveland. We know this Charlotte team gives up a lot of fantasy points to bigs. I think if Jared Allen plays, it's a really good matchup for him, and I would definitely be interested in him in tournaments. We've seen Jared Allen have some really big games in the past against Charlotte, so I definitely would be interested in Allen as a tournament play. If Jared Allen doesn't play, then I think that makes Evan Mobley look like a pretty good option. I would have a lot of interest in Evan Mobley today if he wants, if Jared Allen gets ruled out, because I think if Allen gets ruled out, that is a little boost for Evan Mobley, and I'd be interested in him, especially in this really good matchup. You probably would see more minutes for Kevin Love as well if Allen were to sit, but at $5,900 coming off the bench, I'm not super interested in Kevin Love today. So definitely, from the Cleveland side, I think it comes down to if Jared Allen plays or not. If he plays, I kind of like him in this matchup. If he's out, I think Evan Mobley is really appealing. But that's really it for this game. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, Milwaukee and Philadelphia. So this is one where I think you can kind of look to the stars in this game, and that's probably it. I think Giannis and Joel Embiid are both viable here. We know Giannis has massive upside. We know he's going to have a massive role. He's not been great the last few games, but obviously a big game is coming for Giannis. We just know that he's going to have so much usage when he's on the floor. He's historically done pretty well against Philadelphia, if I do believe. He had a good game against them in the season opener. So 12-6 is really tough to get to right now. We'll have to see what kind of value we get today, but obviously Giannis offers a crazy high floor, and we know the ceiling is always there. And then Joel Embiid's coming off like the best game of the season by far. I mean, he had 100 freaking DraftKings points, 59 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, 7 blocks against the Jazz. I mean, the Jazz had no answer for Embiid. Obviously, this is a much tougher matchup. Milwaukee's a good defensive team. Brook Lopez is a really good defender. Embiid did struggle pretty poor, or he did do pretty well. He kind of struggled against Milwaukee earlier this year. It was a really low-scoring game. So I don't think it's the best spot for Embiid, but we know he's going to have a really big usage rate. We know the role is going to be really good. Obviously, without James Harden, we can still expect a ton of opportunity for Embiid. So he would definitely be viable, more of a tournament play, not someone I think I'd really get to like as an optimal cash game play. And then, Jrue Holiday's questionable. Even if he plays, I'm not interested in him, but if he gets ruled out, obviously that's a little boost to Giannis. Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, neither one of them really stand out on this slate. If I had to go to one of them, probably would be Maxey, but for me in this game, I think it's really just Giannis and Joel Embiid, and that's it. Like, I'm not really interested in anyone else. So I think we move on to the next game, talk about Orlando and Chicago. So for Orlando today, no Paolo Banchero, and I think Wendell Carter Jr. is probable, so he is expected to be back for this game. I'm not seeing a ton I really like on Orlando. Obviously, without Banchero, that does open up more usage for guys like Franz Wagner, some more minutes for a guy like Bol, but I think those guys are priced about right. I think Wagner at $6,900 I'm okay with. Now, Wagner has not really shown much of a ceiling this year, but I think his ceiling is higher without Banchero on the floor. He's not really been great in the games he's played without Banchero, but I think he's still playable even on a big slate like this. I assume his ownership will be pretty low. But I'm not really interested in any Orlando guys. Obviously, Mo Bamba was a pretty good value last slate after Wendell Carter Jr. got ruled out. But now that Wendell Carter Jr. is back, I'm not really interested in Mo Bamba. Bol is coming off a massive game. He had 50 DraftKings points. A lot of that could have been due to Wendell Carter Jr. being out. I think with Wendell Carter Jr. back, I'm not super interested in Bol at his salary. So not a ton of interest in Orlando. And then on the Chicago side, Chicago's pretty much fully healthy. And anytime that's the case, I really don't have a ton of interest in any of these Chicago guys. DeRozan's 8K, Levine's 7,300, Vooch is 7,100. One of them might have a good game here. Orlando this season in terms of pace, Orlando's kind of been like, I want to say about middle of the pack in pace. They've been towards the bottom of the league in pace. They're 21st in pace. In defensive rating, they're 24th in defensive rating. So like it's a good matchup, I guess. But at 8K for DeRozan, he's not someone I'm really prioritizing today. Same could be said for Levine and Vooch at their price tags. Just in general, I don't think this game is that appealing. I really don't see much I like here. Probably just going to be a game I kind of avoid today. So let's move on to the next one, OKC and Memphis. So I think the two plays that really stand out in this game are once again the stars here. We got John Morant at 10,500. We got SGA at 9,900. I mean, John Morant, obviously we can expect him to continue to have a really big role, really big usage rate while Desmond Bane is out. Even at 10.5, I think John looks like a very strong pay-up option today. And then SGA, I mean, he's just been playing out of his mind lately. At least 50 DraftKings points in 5 out of his last 6 games. Memphis, good defensive team. They're solid, but I don't think, at this point, man, I think SGA might just be matchup proof. He's been able to dominate even in some of the toughest matchups. His usage rate is sky high. He's scoring a ton, taking a ton of shots. He's been rebounding as well. He's been getting assists. He's just been doing everything. So I still think at 9,900, SGA looks like a really good pay-up option today. And I don't think I'm going to anything else in this game. I mean, nothing else I love. I will say that it's a really good spot for Steven Adams. OKC this season has just been terrible defensively against bigs. They give up a lot of offensive boards, and that's obviously where Steven Adams can do a lot of his damage. We saw Steven Adams have a massive game against the Hornets earlier this season. Not saying we're going to get 51 DK points from Steven Adams today, but I would not be surprised if you do see a 35, 40-point game from Steven Adams, DraftKings points that is. I could definitely see like a double-double with some blocks. At 5,300, I would throw him in my player pool if you were playing multiple lineups. Just playing one lineup, would I get to Steven Adams? Don't know, but I think if you're playing multiple lineups, he is someone that I would throw in my player pool just because the matchup is so good. But really don't see anything else I like in this game. Giddey, Dylan Brooks, Triple J came back last game, but he was kind of limited. I assume he'll be limited for a good bit. He did play 25 minutes last game. He probably gets like 28 minutes a day. 28 minutes from Triple J at 5,600 in a good matchup. I mean, he could definitely do well, but he's not someone that I'm really going to go out of my way to play on this slate. So, yeah, that kind of does it for this game. Let's move on to the next one, Indiana and Houston. So for Houston, big injury to watch right now is Kevin Porter Jr., who is currently questionable. If Kevin Porter Jr. does wind up sitting today, I assume the biggest beneficiary will definitely be Jalen Green. Jalen Green is not that expensive. He's 6,500. I would definitely be interested in Jalen Green here, especially if KPJ gets ruled out. And then I don't know what they would do with the starting lineup. They could slide Jalen Green down to point guard and then just start someone else, start like a KJ Martin or something. Or you could see like maybe Deshaun Nix. He hasn't really been in the rotation much this season. He hasn't played a ton, but he might start in place of Kevin Porter Jr. I don't know a ton about Nix, but if he winds up starting, he's only 3,200. It's a really good matchup. I think he would be a viable value play. But we'll have to wait on the news for KPJ. If KPJ plays, I think he's kind of appealing just because the matchup is so good. This should definitely be a very fast-paced, relatively high-scoring game. Neither one of these teams play much defense. And then like Şengün, I don't mind in this matchup. It's a really good spot. Indiana's a team you can kind of beat down low. Miles Turner's a good defender, but they have been giving up a lot of fancy points to the center position. So like I think it's kind of a good spot for Şengün. But I'm not really looking at anything else on Houston. And then on the Indiana side, I really like this matchup for Tyrese Halliburton. I wish Halliburton was a little bit cheaper. He's so closely priced to guys like Ja and SGA that I think I'd rather get up to them. But, man, Houston this season has been giving up a lot of fancy points to the point guard position, giving up a lot of big games to guards in general. We know Halliburton is a guy that does offer a ton of upside, and in a fast-paced, high-scoring game like this is a type of matchup that he should definitely thrive in. So I think Halliburton offers a ton of upside here. I definitely like him in this matchup. And then, I could get behind Miles Turner. He's coming off a big game against Charlotte. Don't mind this matchup against the Rockets. 7,300 does feel like an appropriate price tag for Turner, but obviously he has shown a lot of upside this season. Really not looking to anyone else on Indiana, though. I think that kind of does it for this game. It's definitely going to be one worth targeting just because both these teams play at pretty fast paces. Neither one of these teams play much defense, so I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. And if I'm going to go to anyone, it's probably going to be, Halliburton, KPJ if he plays, Miles Turner. If KPJ doesn't play, then again, we can look to guys like Jalen Green, maybe a guy like Nix, maybe even like an Eric Gordon would benefit if KPJ were to get ruled out. But let's move on to the next game. I think we got 5 more to go over, so I'm going to try and get through these quickly, guys. Denver and Dallas. Definitely want to spend some time on, especially on the Denver side. So for Denver, no Nikola Jokic, no Jamal Murray. Obviously, Jamal Murray played last game, but now he's out as well. And then Aaron Gordon, he was questionable last game, did not play. We'll have to see if he plays today. So potentially no Jokic, Murray, or Gordon today for the Nuggets. We'll see if Gordon winds up playing. I think we can expect pretty big roles for guys like Michael Porter Jr., Bruce Brown, Bones Hyland. I mean, these guys look like really good plays today. I played Jamal Murray last slate. I played Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. obviously was a huge bust. He put up 11 DraftKings points in 28 minutes. But without Jokic and without Murray and maybe without Gordon as well, I mean, somebody's got to put the ball in the basket. And I think we can expect Michael Porter Jr. to have pretty big usage rate. Expect him to take a good amount of shots, to be one of the go-to options on offense. I would expect a bounce-back game from him here. I definitely am interested in Michael Porter Jr. today, and I wouldn't be scared off of that bad game last game. And then for the guards, without Jamal Murray, I think we can expect a lot of minutes for Bruce Brown and Bones Hyland. Bruce Brown last game was pretty productive off the bench. He didn't play a ton of minutes, but he still had 29 DraftKings points in 22 minutes. Obviously, his minutes should be higher today without Jamal Murray. And then Bones Hyland was really productive last game, 34 DK points in 22 minutes. I don't know who's going to start in place of Jamal Murray. It could be Bruce Brown. It could be Bones Hyland. Whichever one starts, I feel a little bit better about, but I think Bones Hyland is a guy that does offer a ton of upside and is going to be in play regardless of if he starts or not. We've seen Bones put up really good games off the bench this season. He's kind of been like their sixth man. He's going to run that second unit, and obviously without Jamal Murray, his minutes should be even higher here. He usually plays like low 20s. I think he could get into the high 20s, maybe even like 30, 32 minutes for Bones today. So like a lot of Denver plays, obviously they're a shorthanded team, so you're going to have to look to guys like MPJ. If Aaron Gordon plays, I'm very interested in Aaron Gordon, Bruce Brown, Bones Hyland. Not super interested in KCP. I don't know if his role changes too much. But then talking about the bigs, we did see DeAndre Jordan start last game in place of Jokic. He played 26 minutes. I think he played like 18 minutes in the first half, so he was on pace to play really big minutes, and then he didn't get much run in the second half. I'm guessing DeAndre Jordan starts again. If he does start again, I think he's an okay value play. He's 3,600. We did see Zeke Naji get a lot of playing time in the second half. He played 26 minutes. My best guess is these two guys kind of split the center minutes. It'll kind of depend like who's playing better. If Jordan's not playing that well, they could play Naji more. If Jordan comes out and plays really well out of the gate, he could get a lot of minutes. So it could be kind of like a hot hand situation, whoever Malone just decides to play. But if you want to go to one of the two Denver bigs, whether it be Naji or Jordan, I'm fine with it. I don't think either one are like great values today, but they're viable. On a slate like this that doesn't have a ton of value right now. Obviously, that could change. But on the Dallas side, I really don't like much on Dallas today besides Luka. Obviously, Dinwiddie and Christian Wood we were targeting last game with Luka out. Now that Luka's back, I think it's really just Luka for me, and that's it. Luka 12-7. It's really, really expensive, but we obviously know Luka has the upside to pay off this price tag. It's going to come down to what kind of value we get. Right now, there isn't a ton of cheap value, so it's going to be tough to build lineups with Luka if the slate were to start right now. But you guys know with NBA, everything can change. In the afternoon, guys can get ruled out randomly. Just kind of a wait and see with my interest in Luka. Right now, it's going to be tough to get there. I think if you're just playing like one optimal lineup, he's not going to be a guy that you really are able to prioritize. But in tournaments, definitely get some exposure to Luka. If you're playing multiple lineups, you're probably going to want to have Luka in your player pool. But let's move on to the next game, Boston and New Orleans. So another game that I'm not super interested in, but we could see some plays open up here if some guys get ruled out. Zion Williamson's questionable, could return for this game. We'll have to pay attention to that. Marcus Smart was surprisingly ruled out last game. He is questionable for today. And then I believe Malcolm Brogdon is probable, so he's expected back. So talking about Zion and Smart, if they get ruled out, I think there will be some viable options on both sides. Obviously, if Zion sits, that benefits guys like CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, J-Val to a lesser extent. I think Ingram and McCollum both feel priced about right, especially for a tougher matchup against the Celtics. So I wouldn't be running to roster those guys. J-Val, I could see going to here. J-Val did see some more minutes last game versus what he's been seeing. He got 27 minutes last game. In Boston this season, they've been giving up some fancy points to the bigs. They've definitely not been as elite of a defensive team without Robert Williams. So I don't mind the spot for J-Val. I think his minutes would be a little bit more secure if Zion got ruled out. So I would definitely prefer for Zion to be out. If Zion plays, I really don't have much interest in any Pelicans. Do want to mention Trey Murphy just because last game with Zion out, he started the last 2 games in place of Zion, but obviously last game he was really productive, had 44 DK points in 25 minutes. I think we could expect like 30, 32 minutes from Trey Murphy here if Zion sits, so he would definitely be viable. And then on the Boston side, Tatum and Brown, I'm not super interested in today. I think they both feel priced about right. I'd rather get to guys like John Morant, SGA. I think I'd rather go cheaper and play someone like like Tyrese Halliburton maybe, but obviously Tatum and Brown both have upside and they're pretty much always playable. Marcus Smart, if he plays, I'm not really interested in. If he gets ruled out, then I think we can look to guys like Derek White and potentially Brogdon. I'm guessing Derek White would start again if Smart got ruled out. Derek White started last game. Derek White was really productive last game, had a double-double, 40 DraftKings points in 31 minutes. His price tag did come up to $5,400, but I would still be interested in Derek White if he starts again. And then you probably would see a few more minutes for Malcolm Brogdon, kind of running the second unit, playing off the bench. At 5K, I think Brogdon would be playable today if Smart sits. But obviously, that's just kind of a wait and see. And that's really it for this game. So let's go ahead and talk about the last 3 games of the night, Phoenix and Utah. So not one I really have much interest in here. On the Phoenix side, Chris Paul, once again, questionable. Chris Paul has been questionable for like the last few games. He's been ruled out every game. I have a feeling he's going to return at some point, and it could definitely be this game. So I'm kind of expecting Chris Paul to be back. And if Chris Paul does return, that pretty much takes me like off of everyone on Phoenix. But I will say the one guy that I'm kind of interested in because of this matchup is DeAndre Ayton. We've seen Utah just get killed by centers this season. Obviously, Embiid had a massive game against them. I know they're giving up like the most or second most fantasy points to the center position this season. So I think this definitely could be a big spot for DeAndre Ayton. He's not a guy that I've really played him much this season, but I think he is in play today, even regardless of if Paul's in or out. And then on the Utah side, I really don't really like anything on Utah. It's a tougher spot against Phoenix. All these Utah guys feel priced correctly. On an 11-game slate, I don't think I'm going to really be playing any Jazz today, so that kind of does it for this game. It's not that appealing of a game in general. Right now, I think my favorite play in this game is for sure DeAndre Ayton, just because I like the matchup so much. But if Chris Paul gets ruled out again, then obviously you can maybe look to Booker, to Cameron Payne, even to Mikal Bridges, who had a really big game last game. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We got 2 more games to talk about. So the Knicks and the Warriors, I think, looking at this game, starting off at the top with Steph Curry. I mean, Steph Curry, he's just been on another level this season. He's just playing out of his mind. Him and SGA have kind of been like the top 2 guys in terms of scoring and in terms of, like MVP front runners right now. SGA is just playing so well, and so is Curry. Curry's averaging over 32 points per game. He's averaging 55 DK points per game. Matchup against the Knicks, I think, is totally fine here. The Knicks do give up a lot of 3-point attempts, and obviously that's where Curry does a lot of his damage from behind the arc. Even in a tough matchup against Phoenix, we saw Curry go out there and put up 74 DraftKings points. Like, his upside has been massive this season. He's normally been like a scoring-dependent player, but he's been getting a lot of rebounds this year. He's been getting a lot of assists. He's been doing everything when he's on the floor. I have no issues with Curry today. I think he's a very strong pay-up option. I think he's a great tournament play. Don't expect his ownership to be too high on a big slate like this. But the rest of this game, I'm not super interested in. Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, 2 guys that always have upside, but they feel priced about right on the slate. Will say that it is a big-time pace-up spot here for the Knicks. The Warriors this season have been playing at the fastest pace in the league, whereas the Knicks are like, where are they at? They're actually 10th in pace, so they've actually been playing at a faster pace this year. But yeah, it should be a relatively fast-paced game and kind of a pace-up spot for the Knicks. So Randle or Brunson in tournaments, I don't hate going to, but I'm really not considering any other Knicks on this slate. Isaiah Hartenstein has been starting at center lately, but he's really just not been producing that well. Don't think I'm going to go to him on this slate. And then on the other side with the Warriors, besides Steph, I really don't like any Warriors today besides Steph. Wiggins, Poole, Green, none of them look that great. Klay Thompson, I could maybe get behind just because the Knicks do give up a lot of 3-point attempts. And obviously, again, Klay does a lot of his damage from behind the arc. So I think this is a good matchup for Klay. Just, his shooting slump has been definitely, poor. He's been shooting poorly this season. He's kind of been in a little bit of a shooting slump. Have a feeling he's going to break out of it at some point. Maybe that's a guy you could play like on the late slate, but for the full main slate, I don't know if I'd get to Klay. So yeah, really, I think the clear best play in this game is definitely Steph Curry. But let's go ahead and move on to the last game of the night, talk about the Lakers and the Pistons. So the Pistons, they are on a back-to-back today. I think they're like the only team on a back-to-back, if I remember correctly. So the Pistons, only team on a back-to-back, will definitely have to kind of pay attention to their injury report. But for the Lakers, Anthony Davis should be playing today, and then we might get LeBron back as well. LeBron is questionable. Have to keep an eye on this. He's been doubtful for their last few games, so I guess he has a chance to return tonight. If LeBron does return, I'm really not interested in any Lakers because obviously AD would take a hit with LeBron back. So would Westbrook. Plus, Dennis Schroeder is expected to make his season debut, so I think that just kind of throws a wrench into things. I'm not really looking at many Lakers here. It is a really good matchup. The Pistons have had like the worst defensive rating in the league this season, but with where these guys are priced at on this slate with so many other pay-up options, I really wouldn't be going out of my way to play any Lakers today. Maybe LeBron you could go to if you wanted to go there, but not super interested in any Lakers. Now, if LeBron does get ruled out, then I think if LeBron's out, we can look to guys like AD, maybe Westbrook. I'm guessing Dennis Schroeder, like if LeBron does sit, they might start Dennis Schroeder at point guard. We'll have to see. So that could be a guy worth targeting. We know Dennis Schroeder historically been a pretty good point per minute player. But let's talk about some Pistons now. Looking at the Pistons here, obviously back-to-back for them. Cade Cunningham still out. Isaiah Stewart still out. We'll see how these Detroit guys do on Thursday night. As I'm recording this video, that game has not started yet, the Pistons-Clippers game. I was interested in some of those Pistons on the 3-game slate. I think even on tonight's 11-game slate, some of these Pistons are viable, especially because it is a pretty good matchup. The Lakers have been playing at a pretty fast pace this season, so a guy like Jaden Ivey, I'm definitely interested in here. I think his upside is obviously way higher without Cade Cunningham. He's just going to have the ball in his hands more. His assist number should be high as well. So I'm kind of interested in Jaden Ivey. I think Bojan, Saddiq Bey feel priced about right. We'll have to see what the Pistons do with their starting lineup. Again, I'm recording this video before that game starts on Thursday night. If Marvin Bagley starts as center, I'd assume he would start at center again in this matchup. Obviously, there would be some foul trouble risk guarding AD, but Marvin Bagley has historically been a pretty productive point-per-minute player. So at 4,700, I'm kind of interested in him for value. Again, we'll have to see what that starting lineup is for the Pistons, who they decide to go with. But if Bagley starts again, I'd be interested in him. Don't know if I get to any other Pistons. I think Killian Hayes, obviously he's been starting at point guard in place of Cade. He probably starts again, plays like 30, 32 minutes. At 4,600, he's an okay value play. It's obviously a good matchup. I don't mind these Pistons, though. I normally don't really go out of my way to play many Pistons. But on this slate, where especially in a good matchup against the Lakers, guys like Jaden Ivey, Marvin Bagley, even Bojan I don't hate, Killian Hayes, I think there's some interesting Detroit guys to go to today. But that's it for this big 11-game slate, guys. I hope, as always, you enjoyed this video. I appreciate you watching. Hit that like button if you did enjoy. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And again, if you're new to the channel, you haven't checked out PrizePicks, they're the sponsor of this video. Sign up for PrizePicks, use promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. But best of luck on this slate, guys. Thanks for watching the video. As always, hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.